Well, I'm cautiously optimistic about a phone call I had about a month ago. It was from a music producer in Nashville, Tennessee. And I never expected that, but he was interested in a poem I wrote. And that's kind of the end of the story. Here's the beginning of it. About 5 years ago, I was watching Jeopardy, my favorite show at the time. And one of the categories was Patriarchs of the Bible. And I don't remember exactly what the question was. It was like, who sold his birthright for a bowl of stew or something like that. But I thought, I used to know this stuff. I haven't been in it for so long. I'm not really a religious person, but I have a big respect for everybody who is, and for all the stories, the literature. There's so many references and quotations and that thing. I think it's important to know. And I was really disappointed in myself. So I thought, I'm going to go back into the Old Testament, and I'm just going to start rereading it again. And I was really serious about it. I actually took notes and things, and I was like, here's the people that are important and the events and all these different things that are significant. And somewhere along the line there, I do like poetry, although I'm not a poet. I've never taken a poetry class. I've never published a poem or anything like that, but I memorize a lot of poems when I'm out hiking, and so I really like them. And I am thinking that, there was this poem that I memorized as a young boy, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And I was thinking, if I could take some of these notes I made and made it into something that rhymes like that, I bet I could remember it better. So I took a shot at it, and I was cautiously optimistic that it might turn into something I could remember anyway. And it did. I was able to take all my notes from the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and make it into a little poem. And so I thought, well, I'll try it again with the next book. And it did, and it worked out all right. And it worked for me. And so I just kept doing that. And over the course of about 2 years, I made my way through all 39 books of the Old Testament. And I wrote a little poem about all of them. And they weren't anything I would share with anyone except, really close friends who would give me a lot of forgiveness. But I had one of those instances at one time where I shared it with a bunch of friends. And surprisingly, they liked it. We were talking about something that had to do with Genesis, so I shared my poem with them. So much so that one of my friends said, I've got this friend in Nashville. I think this sounds like song lyrics. And so he says, you mind if I send a copy to him? And I said, well, risk your friendship with the guy. That's okay with me. Yeah, please help yourself. Hope maybe somebody else will remember from it. And anyway, so he sends him off a copy of it, and I don't think anything will happen. Well, the next week, I get an email from the guy saying, I'd like to talk to you about your poem. And I was thrilled about that, beyond cautious optimism. I was just thrilled. And so he arranges to call me on a Saturday. And I think, we'll talk for 10 minutes. He'll realize I'm an imposter, and that'll be it. But he calls me, and we talked for 2.5 hours on the phone. And he's impressing me. He's telling me about the time he worked with Marshall Tucker, and the Black Eyed Peas were really good, especially Will.i.am, and Fergie was a distraction, but Taylor Swift is really difficult, but it always works out, and I'm like, he's still talking to me? But anyway, it kept working, and he coached me on this poem, Genesis first, and he says, I think you could make something out of this, and he says, you got to shorten it, it's got to do it like you're doing 4 beats to a measure rather than thinking about your lyrics, but you can also cheat with them because, you just coached me through it. And so we ended up with something that sounds like this. I'll recite it for you. So, and it's called God Spoke, and it's about Genesis. So, it all began when God spoke. There was light, and the world awoke in 7 days, and it was good. The Garden of Eden, a new neighborhood. First two created, Adam and Eve, lived in this garden with all they need. But a serpent fooled Eve, and Adam followed suit, so from the garden, they're given the boot. God spoke. Well, bad lineage followed Abel and Cain, till God decided to make it rain, to flood the earth and wash it clean. For 40 days, no land was seen. God spoke. But Noah, his fam, and 2 of each creature floated this ark, but no chance to beach her. Then a rainbow sign marked a new beginning, but man went right on sinning, so God spoke. Men built this tower and called it Babel. God tumbled the tower and scattered the rabble. few folks learned this ain't no joke, and so they listened when God spoke. But Abraham starts a new family chain, a great nation's seed to blossom again. Then generations through Isaac and Jacob blessed, and Joseph to Egypt. The family progressed when God spoke. And that's my little poem that goes from the beginning to the end of Genesis. And so, I don't know where it is now, but right now it's floating around Nashville somewhere, and I'm cautiously optimistic that something might become of it. So, thank you.